Let's turn to Chicago here, and how do you see this playing out where Rajon Rondo has been benched by Fred Hoiberg, and he's talking about having meetings with Gar Foreman? What's going to happen here?
This whole situation ends one way and one way only. That's how this movie ends, guys. This movie ends with Rondo getting released. Because here's the reality. Unless the Bulls are going to go try to attach some young assets to Rondo to move him somewhere to see if they can get a star player, Rondo's untradeable. No one wants him. Even if Rondo gets dealt, whoever deals for him is going to waive him immediately. No one is giving the Chicago Bulls any kind of trade value for Rajon Rondo. He has become a toxic figure in the NBA. Bring him to your team, he will be a hassle. He refuses to come off the bench. As a starter, he doesn't want to listen to the coach. He wants to do his own thing. When you get on his case, he fights back to coaches and assistant coaches. We know he had a suspension from the Bulls earlier this season for that stuff, and now the Bulls are going to try to move him to the bench. Listen, he should be on the bench. The problem is he won't come off the bench. He's going to make a lot of trouble and a lot of hassle, and he's going above the coach's head. The only solution for Rondo is going to be to cut bait. And the thing about Rondo, the sad part about it for Rondo, is that he's arrogant enough to believe someone's going to be interested in him. He lacks self-awareness in realizing that no one wants that kind of problem on their basketball team. He has never got this thing turned around from what happened in Dallas 2 years ago. And it's sad for Rondo. But nonetheless, for the Bulls, he's going to leave them with very little choice. The Bulls are going to waive him. And quite frankly, when the Bulls do waive him, they're going to be much better off for it.
What about a reunion with Doc Rivers with the Clippers?
The Clippers don't need him. And if you're Doc, why? Why, Michael? Think about where he is at backup point guard. Ray Felton's played terrific. It's been great for them. They still have Rivers. They still have Jamal Crawford. Both of those guys, although not pure point guards, will have the ball in their hands a lot coming off the bench. Doc doesn't have the minutes for him. And if you don't have the minutes for Rondo, don't bring him to your team. I mean, it's enough to bring him somewhere where you're not going to start him, where he's not going to be happy. But if you don't have the minutes for him, don't bring him to your team. The only place I could see him potentially landing where he could be a very positive influence and come off the bench and be willing to do it would be Cleveland, because they don't have a backup point guard. They need a backup point guard, and he's not going to pull any of his nonsense with LeBron James. And if he does pull his nonsense, you'd have him on a minimum deal anyway, and you could send him out in the next train out of Cleveland. That's the way it'll work with him. That's the only place I could see Rondo landing. Maybe potentially in that same vein, Golden State. But if you can't shoot, Golden State doesn't want you. And this guy can't hit a bull in the backside with a bass fiddle. He can't shoot at all. So, I mean, for me, I just don't think there's a lot of landing spots for Rajon Rondo here. And listen, Rondo made his bed with the way he's acted at his last 3 stops. Now it's time for him to lie in it.